What's up, everybody? Mark with Coffee and Toys here. It is Monday, and that means it is another review of the Marvel run of G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero. That's right, it is Monday, and on Mondays, if you're not familiar with the channel, we are reviewing every single issue of G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, starting with issue 1, concluding with issue 155. That's right, the entire Marvel run. We'll probably sprinkle in a special mission every once in a while, but we are going to attempt to get through all 155 issues of that amazing, how many years does it run? 12 years? 12-year run of G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero. And today's issue, we are going to be reviewing G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, issue number 13. So, let's get into it. But of course, before we get into today's review, let's talk about the coffee that we're drinking. And of course, I am drinking CoffeeBrandCoffee.com. Of course you knew that. CoffeeBrandCoffee.com provides no frills, no gimmicks, just great tasting company. Support a local business. Support this channel by clicking the link in the description down below or using the discount code Coffee&Toys. That's COFFEENTOYS. Save yourself 5% on your first purchase or your 50th purchase. I am being lazy today and drinking number 3 straight from a K-Cup. Popped it in, made it, and here we are. So I'm going to take a drink of this, and with that, we are going to get into G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, issue 13. Okay, G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, issue number 13, came out in July of 1983 and is entitled The Last Plane from Rio Lindo. Very ominous. Writer, Larry Hama. Penciler, Mike Vosberg. Inker, John DiAgostino. Letterer, Joe Rosen. Colorer, Bob Sharon. And your editor is Denny O'Neil, editor-in-chief Jim Shooter. Now, with that being said, our issue begins where we left off last with the Baroness and Scarface flying away from the former Cobra bunker that they just bombed into oblivion to the bottom of the Rio Lindo River, with our Joes Breaker, Stalker, and Gung-Ho floating in the river looking on helplessly. Baroness and Scarface talk about how it was perfect to get rid of Dr. Venom and Quinn because they had outlived their usefulness, and that it is great that they have also managed to get rid of one of the most menacing to them, G.I. Joe's Snake Eyes. As they are flying away, Baroness says we should circle back to make sure the 3 other G.I. Joes are dead. Scarface, however, says doesn't seem like we need to do that, they're dead. And they fly over and they don't see anyone because these 3 Joes are under the water. Now, that being said, Baroness turns on the heat signature radar and does see the 3 Joes under the water, and radios Cobra Commander himself to ask for permission to kill the 3 Joes, which Cobra Commander surprisingly says don't do. The priority is getting that briefcase with the serum and the virus back to HQ. So, begrudgingly, they leave, and the 3 Joes safely return to land, except Breaker turns around and notices, while he sees Gung-Ho, Stalker's not there. And suddenly, Stalker comes out of the water with an alligator in tow, and the 2 are battling it out, and while they're battling it, Stalker makes these, basically runs through what, everything from its genus to its phylum, all the scientific information on this alligator as he's fighting it. He gets dragged underwater, and after a few more seconds, he comes up and says, present status, dead, and he has killed the alligator. But things are not all great for Stalker because he comes out of the water seriously injured on his leg as the crocodile has bitten him, and he falls face down onto the ground. So a few hours later, Stalker is bandaged up, and Breaker is sitting beside him with a campfire with a spit across it with a piece of alligator meat, and he's cooking the alligator for Stalker and trying to keep Stalker warm. Stalker freaks out and says even a green shirt would know better than to do this. You don't make a smoke screen, bring up a fire and make smoke when you're in enemy territory. And Breaker counters by saying, hey, Gung-Ho and I just thought we didn't want you going to shock. We knew you needed to eat because you're injured, and that's why we did this. And they look around and they're like, where are we anyway? And Breaker says, we're at a Cobra research station given by all the Cobra insignias plastered all over the place. 10 miles down the river, however, we come upon a vehicle, a truck full of pigs, and 2 gentlemen in sombreros driving it. And they're chatting among themselves, and I must say these two gentlemen look like Laurel and Hardy. I don't know if that was Larry's intent, but they definitely, to me, look like Laurel and Hardy. And they're shocked to see Gung-Ho emerge from all the pigs in the back of the truck. He gives him his marine lighter and says, hey, can you give me a ride? I need to go to this such and such a place, use a radio. And of course they agree because it's his really cool marine stamped cigarette lighter. Now, back at Cobra HQ, Cobra Commander congratulates the Baroness and Scarface on their success, but he notices that the Baroness is being a little trepidatious, not enjoying her moment of victory, and she is concerned about Scarface's reluctance to go back and look after, see if the Joes were killed. And Cobra Commander says, hey, he just wanted to get back here with the briefcase. He's probably just overzealous to return back to HQ. Back in Sierra Gordo, however, the Joe team has dug this zigzag trench around the research station to, from what Stalker explains to us, if you dig a zigzag trench, it's harder for the enemy to attack you, and it's actually less work. So that was very interesting to learn. And they're setting up some booby traps while they're at it to protect themselves. Elsewhere, a rebel band of men led by this character named Richter notice that Cobra has left the area, and they are going to go check out this research station themselves because they're interested if there's any goodies they might be able to find. So we go back to Rio Lindo, and this gentleman walks into this radio station, I believe that's what it is, and says, hey, I need to make a call to Staten Island, New York, and I'm willing to pay for it. And the guy behind the desk is just a foul human, and he basically says, they have a little quip back and forth, and the man says, how about I just have you shot instead? So escalates very quickly. And he goes, guards, come out here. I want you to shoot this. Take him out back and shoot him. No better yet, shoot him in front of me. I'll enjoy it. I'll be entertained. Well, the man in the sombrero pulls out his gun first, shoots the two guards, and says, are you not being entertained? And we realize now it is Gung-Ho. So Gung-Ho takes the station manager back to the radio, throws him through the door, and we now cut over to the G.I. Joe headquarters in Staten Island, and Colonel Hawk bursts through the door, and he announces Scarlet, Rock and Roll, Grunt, Doc, and Torpedo need to get their Halo gear and get ready for in the airship in 10 minutes because they have a rescue operation for Gung-Ho, Stalker, and Breaker. Scarlet's going to lead the Alpha Team. Alpha Team is going to go to the Rio Lindo airfield until Hawk can secure the C-130 for transport to get them and the rest of the teams out of Rio Lindo. And meanwhile, Doc and Torpedo are going to be Bravo Team, and they're going to go search the previously bombed bunker just to see if there's any remnants left, anything, and maybe even be able to save Snake Eyes. With that being said, as they are loading the plane, Scarlet asks Hawk about the mission. She says, hey, you said we were going to go rescue 3 Joes, Breaker, Stalker, and Gung-Ho, but, Snake Eyes was part of that. And he very sternly reprimands her and says, we will talk about that on the plane. Get ready. So they get ready, and we go back to Sierra Gordo, and the operator is now, the radio operator has taken Gung-Ho deeper and deeper into the jungle via car, and Gung-Ho's just sitting in the back seat with a gun on him. And they're going deeper and deeper into the jungle, and they wind up getting to a point where they find this bulldozer. So more on that later. We cut back to Cobra HQ, and at Cobra HQ, Cobra Commander has taken Baroness down into the depths of the castle, or the base, whatever you want to call it, and says, hey, we actually have Scarface under post-hypnotic suggestion. That's why we didn't want him to rescue the Joes, and the briefcase that I've been telling you about isn't that all that important. It's just to throw the G.I. Joes off of our real operation. And they go and they look at this model of the bunker and the research station, and they're talking about what's going on, including this new third party of militia that is honing in on the research base. And Baroness even suggests, she says, well, let's drop in some Cobra paratroopers to take out these militia. And Destro's there, and Destro says, that wouldn't be a good idea. He actually grabs her arm and says, that would not be a good idea to rescue our enemies. And besides, I've already taken care of it. So, interesting what's going on there and what Destro has planned. Back at that abandoned research station, Breaker finds an open Cobra courier pouch with a decoded message on it and shows it to Stalker, who is shivering and cold and is afraid he has infection from his leg. And Stalker says, this is not real. This has been planted. No one leaves an open communique around. But there's something interesting about this because there's a letter I. If you feel the back of the paper, you can feel the type press going through every single through the back of the paper, and you can feel it, except for the dot on this letter I. And I wonder if it's a micro dot that if we examine it with a microscope, will actually have detailed information on it. We cut back to G.I. Joe Alpha and Bravo teams. They are they are jumping out of the plane in Halo gear. And it's interesting because as you jump, they have a close-up of Scarlet, and you see a single tear on her cheek, which I'm inferring is that she found out that Snake Eyes is actually dead, and so did the rest of the team during the flight, as Hawk had said would happen. Gung-Ho arrives at this bulldozer site deep in the jungle, and meanwhile Richter, and he's watching the research station. He sees the zigzag cutout patterns, and he says, I've seen these before. We'll wait till nightfall, and then we'll attack. But then another militia group shows up, and that militia group says, hey, maybe we should just team up and go check out this base. And if there's anybody actually there, a group of two is better than a group of one, sort of thing. And reluctantly, Richter and his men agree. We have now made landing. Alpha team and Bravo team is on site. Bravo team is actually at the crashed bunker. Doc is in the boat while Torpedo is underwater, and he just sees the bunker, and he's like, wow, those are very reminiscent of World War II bunkers. Those can withstand quite a bit of force. And he goes down there and he taps on it, but before he can get a response, Doc's tugging on his line, which means get up in a hurry. Torpedo comes up and Doc says, hey, we've got those militia guys over there. We need to go help Scarlet and meet the rest of Alpha Team over at the airfield. Back at the Cobra research station, the enemy forces show up, and they fall for some of the traps, which are very gruesome. One of them is a spike pit that one guy falls in that Breaker and Stalker created earlier. And the Joe team is securing the airfield from these militia forces, and just then the C-130 starts to land. The G.I. Joe team, also Gung-Ho comes in on this crazy bulldozer. I mean, it's a really wild scene. And they manage to get their vehicle up into the C-130. They've got everybody. We've got Doc, Torpedo. They've rescued Stalker, Breaker, and Gung-Ho, obviously, and Alpha Team, and they all leave on the C-130. And the issue concludes with Stalker giving that decoded note, or that false note, to Hawk, saying, hey, I don't know if this is anything, but it might be. And Hawk says, good work, soldier. We've got it. We'll see what happens. And the issue actually ends with a close-up of the bunker underwater and someone on the inside responding to those taps from Torpedo earlier. And the issue concludes with that. So, what do I think of this issue? It's a good continuation of the story that happened previous issue. I'm not sure what to think with this the serum, the virus was utterly important, and now it's seemingly not. I'm interested in where this goes. I'm interested to know what Destro's play is and all this, since he said he had something. Is he responsible for one or both of the militia teams? I don't know. But yeah, it's not a filler issue because there's some definite action in it, but it's definitely not as exciting as the first part of the story arc, but definitely leaves me wanting to see what the next issue will bring. And yeah, with that being said, that's the review of the issue. Thanks for hanging out with me. If you made it this far, make sure you like the video. Make sure you drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think of the video, I guess, but also what you think of the review of the issue. Are you looking forward to next week's issue? Because I know I sure am. But with that said, I'm Mark. You've been watching Coffee with Toys, and I'll see you later. Let's go.